I don't know when exactly I started feeling it, that low hum in the background that something wasn't right. Maybe it had been there for months, buried beneath routines and shared meals and weekend Target runs. But that night, something in me finally tuned into it. It was a Friday, late enough in the evening that the house had started to settle. Lights dimmed. Dishes put away. The quiet hum of the refrigerator was the only sound besides the occasional creak from the hallway. I was sitting on the couch, half watching a rerun of Parks and Rec, half scrolling through my phone, when I heard the jangle of keys and the soft click of the door unlocking. Kelsey walked in wearing a coral blouse I hadn't seen in a while, the one she usually saved for date nights or special occasions. Her hair looked freshly brushed and she still had makeup on, though some of it had faded. She was smiling, the kind of smile that's polished but not quite real. The kind you wear for meetings or small talk with strangers. "Hey," she said lightly, setting her keys in the little ceramic dish by the door. "Sorry I'm late. We lost track of time, me, Kelly, and Dana. You know how it goes. Girls' night." I nodded. "All good." She walked into the kitchen, her heels echoing softly on the hardwood, and dropped her purse on the counter like she always did. Only this time, she left it unzipped. That might sound like nothing, but I noticed. Kelsey always zipped her bag. Always. She was the kind of person who folded her receipts and stacked them by category. The kind who alphabetized our spice rack once when she got bored on a Sunday. Her leaving it open? That was out of character. I got up to grab a bottle of water. And that's when I saw it. A folded white slip poking out of her purse. My eyes flicked over it quickly, and maybe I should have looked away, respected her privacy. But something about the way it stuck out just barely visible made my breath catch. I glanced around like I was the one doing something wrong. Then, cautiously, I reached in and tugged the paper free. Hotel Marlowe. It was a receipt. 1 night, 2 guests. Same-day check-in. Paid with her card. Time-stamped for 5:17 p.m. just a few hours ago. I didn't even realize I was holding my breath until I exhaled so hard it stung. There had to be an explanation. There had to be. Maybe it was for someone else. Maybe she really had helped a friend. Maybe? I slid it back into her purse, careful to tuck it just the way I found it. Zipper still open. No questions asked. She came back into the living room with a bottle of wine and asked if I wanted a glass. I said sure, even though my throat had gone dry. We sat on the couch, some rom-com playing in the background. She laughed in all the right places, leaned into my side, kissed my cheek once. But I wasn't really there. Not anymore. I was watching her, listening to the pauses between her words. The space between the story and the silence. Something in her eyes felt a little too distant, like she was looking through me instead of at me. The next morning, the receipt was on the kitchen table. Just lying there, plain as day, right next to the banana bowl and a half-used bottle of hand sanitizer. I hadn't touched it. I didn't bring it up. She came downstairs still in her robe, hair tied in a loose bun, scrolling her phone like it was any other Saturday. She reached for a mug, filled it with coffee from the pot I'd made, and then her eyes landed on the paper. "Oh," she said, casual. Not even startled. "That's not mine." She reached for it and offered a half-laugh. "It's Danielle's. Her boyfriend bailed on their weekend getaway last minute and she was all emotional, so I helped her book a room. She didn't have her card on her and I figured whatever. She said she'd Venmo me later." Her voice was calm. Measured. Like she'd already told the story in her head a few times. Like she had prepared for this moment. "She stayed at the Marlowe?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. "Yeah," she said, sipping her coffee. She didn't want to go home. Said being there alone would help her clear her head. "You know how she is. Very eat, pray, love." I gave a small nod. "Right?" Kelsey moved past it like it was nothing. She hummed while opening the fridge, commented on the eggs being almost out, and asked if I wanted pancakes. I said sure. What else could I say? It was such a clean deflection that, in some ways, it made me feel worse. Because I couldn't prove anything. I had no smoking G***N. Just a gut feeling and a hotel receipt with her name on it. Still, something shifted in me that morning. It wasn't dramatic. It didn't explode. It just tilted. Like realizing the floor beneath your feet has been uneven all along and you only just noticed. We made pancakes together. Ate them with butter and syrup and small talk. She told me about her upcoming week, some presentation she was dreading, a meeting with a new hire, a gym class she'd scheduled. I listened, nodding in the right places. But the whole time, a quiet voice in the back of my mind whispered, "That wasn't Danielle's receipt." And I hated myself for thinking it. I hated the suspicion curling inside me like smoke. But I also couldn't ignore it anymore. That night, after she went to bed early, claiming she had a headache, I sat in the living room alone, the TV playing to no one. I pulled the blanket over me, same as I always did, but I didn't feel warm. I felt cold, hollow, and that's when it hit me. I didn't recognize her eyes anymore. Not really. They still looked like Kelsey's. Same shape, same color, same lashes. But when I looked into them now, I didn't see what I used to. There was no spark of inside jokes or quiet int asterisk Macy. No flicker of something unspoken but understood. Just a wall. Smooth. Impenetrable. I laid there for hours, wide awake. Heart thudding for reasons I couldn't admit yet. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I didn't even move. Because deep down, I think I already knew. This wasn't the first signal. It was just the first one I let myself see. After that morning with the hotel receipt, I started seeing things differently. Not in a wild, paranoid way, but in a quiet, measured sort of observation. Like I was no longer part of the play, just watching from the edge of the stage, seeing how everyone hit their marks, how the scenes repeated. I told myself I wasn't spying. I wasn't accusing. I was just paying attention now. And the things I saw, they weren't subtle once you knew what to look for. The shift started after Kelsey's promotion. She'd been grinding for that spot at her tech firm for years. Late nights, skipped dinners, weekends buried in code or strategy decks. I'd been proud of her. Still was, in a way. She earned it. But something changed almost overnight once she got it. First, it was little things. She started going to the gym again. Nothing strange about that. Said she wanted to refocus. Cool. I supported it. But her routines were suddenly rigid. She'd never been a morning person, but now she was out the door by 6 a.m., in full workout gear, perfume on. Yeah, perfume. Not body spray. Not deodorant. Real, floral, high-end perfume at 6 in the morning to sweat on a treadmill? I asked once, just once, jokingly like, starting to wear perfume to the gym now? She smiled and said, "Oh, it's habit. I like feeling fresh. It helps me feel put together." Sure. Okay. But then the phone started locking. That was new. She'd never been the secretive type before. Her phone used to sit face up on the kitchen counter while we cooked or watched TV. She'd hand it to me to play music or check directions without thinking twice. Now, it was locked tight, face down, always on silent, always within reach. She even took it into the bathroom with her. Every time. That was another thing, the bathroom. It started becoming her sanctuary. I'd hear the water running for 20 minutes, sometimes longer, and not a single drop hitting the floor or tub. Just the soft click of her texting. I caught it once when I walked by. I didn't linger, didn't knock. I just noticed. And then there were the work dinners. At first, I didn't question those either. Tech culture can be intense. People work late, schmooze clients, brainstorm over drinks. But it became frequent, too frequent. Tuesday night, Thursday night, random Sundays, always last minute. Sometimes she'd say she was going out with her team. Other times it was just a meeting or strategy over wine. But the stories didn't always line up. One night she mentioned going to a tapas bar with Angela and Rob. But the next morning, when I asked how Angela's new apartment was, she blinked like she didn't know what I was talking about. Oh, right. Yeah, she just moved. It's nice. Smaller, I think. But Angela had moved 6 months ago. I'd helped them carry boxes. Another time, she said she was eating sushi downtown, but the Uber receipt I saw on her email later showed a drop-off in a completely different part of town. That was the night I stopped asking questions, because I realized the answers weren't meant for me anymore. It's strange when you start losing someone while they're still right there in front of you. Kelsey wasn't cold. Exactly. She wasn't mean. She didn't fight or yell or roll her eyes. She was distant, like she was always preoccupied, always living a half-second ahead of the moment, smiling just enough, asking just enough, touching just enough, but none of it real, none of it grounded. She laughed more when she looked at her phone than when she looked at me, and yet I still tried. I suggested date nights. She said she was too tired. I offered to cook more, to take weekend trips to help with her workload. She told me I was overcompensating. "We're fine," she said once. putting a hand on my shoulder like she was consoling a child. "You're overthinking." But I wasn't, because I'd already seen it in her eyes. That faraway gaze. That slight pause when I said, "I love you." That delay in response that used to be instinctive. You can't fake that kind of presence. You either show up for someone or you don't. One night, I stayed up late working on my laptop, and I heard her come in just after midnight. She tried to be quiet, keys soft, heels slipped off at the door. She tiptoed up the stairs and didn't check to see if I was still awake. When I went down the next morning, I saw her dress hanging over the back of a chair. One I hadn't seen before. Low cut, dark blue. Definitely not the business casual attire she used to wear for work drinks. Her makeup wipes were on the sink, smeared with red lipstick she never wore around me. I didn't say anything. What could I say? "Hey, I noticed you're slowly vanishing from this marriage, and I'm the only one trying to hold on." I did what I always did. I made coffee, washed the dishes, replaced the toilet paper. I handled the invisible things, the glue, the maintenance, the background noise that keeps a life together running. She stopped noticing, stopped thanking me, stopped offering help. That's when I started keeping a mental list. Not of the times she disappeared, but of the times she chose not to show up. Because there's a difference, you know? People get busy. They have bad days. I get that. But when someone stops choosing you, daily, actively, consciously, you feel it in your bones. And I was feeling it more and more. She started going to the gym on weekends, too. Not just early mornings anymore, but mid-afternoon. She said she had a new trainer. "Leo," she said once. "He's great. Really motivating." I asked casually, "Oh yeah? What's his deal?" She shrugged. "I dunno. Just a guy. Super focused. I barely talked to him." I remember that detail because of how quickly she said it. Like she needed to shut it down before I even asked. That week, she started showering at odd times. Like right before dinner. Or after she came home from running errands. The smell of her perfume lingered in the air long after she passed by. But it didn't smell like her usual scent. This one was unfamiliar, sharper, bolder. Something new. I mentioned it one day. "New perfume." She blinked. "Oh, yeah. Sample from Sephora. Thought I'd try something different." I nodded. "Smells expensive." She smiled but didn't answer. By then, I was keeping my distance emotionally. Not because I didn't love her, but because I didn't know where to place that love anymore. It felt like handing a gift to someone who wouldn't unwrap it, who wouldn't even look up. I started wondering if I was being paranoid. If maybe I was imagining all of this. Gaslighting myself even. But then I remembered the receipt. And the dress. And the gym sessions that lasted hours. And the text I glimpsed one day, just for a second, when she forgot to tilt her phone away. "Can't wait to see you again. Last night was exactly what I needed." No name. No context. Just that. She walked in from the bathroom seconds later and snatched the phone up casually. Too casually. I didn't ask. Because deep down I already knew. She wasn't with me anymore. I was just the last one to accept it. They say if you look for something hard enough, you'll find it. Even if you wish you hadn't. By the time Kelsey told me she had a last-minute strategy session in Atlanta, I wasn't surprised. She broke the news like she was tossing me a heads-up rather than asking if I'd be okay with her being gone for 3 days. "Wish it wasn't so sudden," she said, brushing her hair in front of the mirror. "But Leo's team is bringing in a consultant. It's important. I'll be back Monday morning." Leo again. That name was starting to sound like an echo in our house. Always in the background, always just a trainer. Always conveniently showing up in her stories. I nodded like it was fine. "Need me to drop you at the airport?" She smiled, just faintly. "Nah, Uber's easier. You don't need to go out of your way." She didn't want me there. That was clear. So I watched her go. Suitcase in one hand, phone in the other, headphones already in her ears. No goodbye kiss. No real eye contact. She was already gone before she pulled out of the driveway. That should have been the end of it. I could have sat home again, pacing the floors, checking timestamps on text messages that would never tell me the whole story. But something in me snapped. Not anger. Not desperation. Just clarity. I wasn't going to sit in the dark anymore. She left around 4 p.m. Her flight, she said, was at 6:15. I waited 20 minutes. Then I grabbed my keys. She hadn't forgotten anything, but I told myself she had. That was my excuse. In reality, I just wanted to see where she'd really gone. I drove to the airport first. She wasn't there. I checked the parking lot. Her name wasn't on the departure screen. No ticket in her name at the Delta kiosk. I stood there with my hands in my jacket, watching people move around me, families, couples, business travelers. Everyone had a destination. Except Kelsey. So I left. It didn't take long to narrow it down. She'd mentioned a downtown hotel once before during one of her strategy nights. Something about the ambience being good for planning. At the time, it had sounded like a weird flex, but now it felt like a lead. Hotel Astra. Boutique place. Swanky. Low lighting. Discreet. I parked across the street, down by the side of a wine bar, and waited in the car. I didn't know what I was hoping to see, or if I even wanted to see it. But I sat there watching people pass under the warm glow of the awning, the valets opening doors, wheeling in suitcases. And then I saw it. The black SUV rolled up first, tinted windows, license plate frame with the logo of her gym. The same one Kelsey belonged to. My chest went tight. The driver door opened. It was him. Leo. Her trainer. Tan, built, annoyingly good posture. The kind of guy you assume has an app full of motivational quotes and unsolicited mirror selfies. He got out and walked to the passenger side. And then she stepped out. Kelsey. Wearing a fitted navy cocktail dress. Not a pantsuit. Not business casual. A dress. Tight enough to catch the light. Heels. Hair curled. Lipstick deep red. They looked like a couple arriving at a gala, not two colleagues heading into a strategy session. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I just watched. She laughed at something he said, her hand brushing his arm. They walked toward the entrance and I saw it, the way her body leaned into his. Familiar. Comfortable. Like they'd done this before. He held the door open for her and she didn't even glance around. She was already inside. I sat there for another 10 minutes, staring at the revolving door like it might spit her back out. But she didn't come back. No Uber. No suitcase. No conference badge. Just her and him disappearing into a world I wasn't invited to. And right then, everything clicked into place. The lies. The receipts. The perfume. The distance. All of it. There's a certain kind of silence that falls over you when you finally stop guessing. It's not relief. It's not even heartbreak. It's like standing on a frozen lake and hearing the ice crack beneath you, slow, deep, final. I didn't go inside. Didn't call her. Didn't text. What was there to say? I drove home. The sun had started to set, throwing long shadows across the empty streets. My fingers clenched the steering wheel harder than I realized. My stomach was in knots, but my head felt eerily clear. Back at the house, everything looked normal. Lights off. Mail still in the box. Dishes in the sink. It felt like a set piece. Like a version of our life I could step into and pretend was still real. But I couldn't. I walked to the bedroom, pulled out a duffel bag, and started packing, not to leave, but to take inventory. The things that were mine. My passport. My grandfather's watch. The signed baseball I'd had since high school. A stack of photos from when we actually seemed happy. I didn't take her stuff. Didn't touch her side of the closet. I wasn't ready for that part. I just needed to carve out a corner of space that was mine again. Later that night, I sat on the porch with a beer, staring at the stars. My phone buzzed once. A text from her. Landed safe. Just settling in. Exhausted already LOL. I stared at it for a long time. Then I set my phone face down and didn't reply. Because now I knew. Not suspected. Not imagined. I knew. I finally saw the version of her she never meant for me to see. The version that laughed too easily with someone else. That wore new dresses for someone else. That made up cities and strategy meetings to buy time for someone else. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. I didn't rage. Didn't throw things. Didn't scream. I just stopped trying. Whatever illusion we had left, it broke that night in the amber light of that hotel doorway. And as strange as it sounds, I didn't feel pain. Not yet. Just a cold kind of clarity. Like waking up from a dream and realizing you've been talking to a stranger. I didn't say anything when she came back. Not that night, not the next morning, not even the day after. Kelsey arrived home on a Monday afternoon with her suitcase trailing behind her, sunglasses still on as she pushed through the front door like she hadn't disappeared into a lie for 3 days. She gave me a tired smile, the kind you flash to a coworker, not your husband, and said, "Hey babe, I'm home." I was sitting at the dining table, laptop open, half reading the same email for the third time. I looked up, nodded, and said, "Hey." That was it. Nothing in my face cracked. No dramatic pause. No questions. I gave her the exact energy she offered me, minimal, careful, distant. I think that was the first moment she noticed something was off. She blinked, paused a beat too long, then walked into the kitchen like she was testing the temperature of the room. Opened the fridge. Said something about the lack of almond milk. Asked if I'd done the laundry. I said some of it. She didn't push. That's how it started, the cold. Not frostbite. Not a blizzard. Just a gradual, creeping chill that settled between us like fog. You don't notice it right away. You just realize one morning that you can see your breath inside your own home. We stopped talking about anything real. She told me about her meetings. I told her about my work deadlines. We exchanged information, not affection. Our conversations became like weather reports, brief, neutral, forgettable. She noticed. I could tell. But she didn't ask. Maybe she thought it would pass, that I was sulking or moody or overwhelmed. She offered small olive branches, coffee brought to my desk, a grocery run without asking, a movie night suggestion. But none of it was connection. It was maintenance. Just enough effort to keep the machine running, but not enough to repair the engine. And I didn't respond. Not with anger, not with sarcasm, not with confrontation. I just stopped. Stopped asking where she was going. Stopped reaching for her in bed. Stopped waiting up when she came home late. She didn't seem to notice at first. Or maybe she did and just didn't know how to name it. But within a week, I saw it in her body language, the way she hesitated before walking into a room I was in. The way she started closing the bathroom door when she used to leave it ajar. The way she placed her phone face down and tucked it under a book even when she left the room for 30 seconds. She thought I was withdrawing out of pettiness. But it wasn't pettiness. It was detachment. There's a difference. You don't detach because you're trying to win. You detach because you finally realize the fight is over and you're the only one still swinging. That week, I started sleeping on the couch. I didn't announce it. Didn't make a show of carrying pillows downstairs or complaining about her tossing in her sleep. I just didn't go upstairs at bedtime. I waited until she was brushing her teeth or flipping through Netflix, and I'd quietly slide onto the couch, pull the blanket over me, and stay there. The first night, she stood at the top of the stairs for a long time. "Coming up?" she asked, voice light but unsure. "Not tonight," I said without looking away from the TV. She hesitated. "Why? Didn't sleep well last night? Don't want to wake you." She stood there for another beat, then said okay and walked away. She never brought it up again. By Wednesday, she stopped making 2 cups of coffee in the morning. By Friday, she was dressing in the bathroom instead of the bedroom. And by the following week, we were ghosts sharing a space we used to call home. People talk about the aftermath of betrayal like it's a firestorm. Screaming matches. Broken dishes. Explosive accusations. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's brushing your teeth next to someone you used to love and realizing you haven't touched their hand in over a month. I started storing my essentials in the hall closet, my shoes, a change of clothes, my laptop bag. At first it was just convenient, easier than navigating our bedroom's tension. But eventually it became my new normal. She didn't ask about it. She didn't ask about anything. Once I caught her looking at me across the living room while I was typing on my laptop. She was curled up in her corner of the couch, phone in hand, blanket pulled up to her chest. Her eyes lingered on me for a few seconds too long. Not soft. Not affectionate. Just trying to figure me out. Like I was a puzzle she couldn't remember starting. I looked up and met her gaze. She looked away. That was the extent of it. No apologies. No explanations. No confessions. Just the unspoken truth sitting between us like a third roommate, quiet, tense, and always watching. I started going out more. Long drives. Late-night walks. Grocery trips that took way longer than they needed to. Sometimes I'd sit in my car outside the house just listening to music or scrolling through my phone, not because I was avoiding her, but because I didn't feel like being in the same room with someone who'd already left me in every way but physically. One night, I took the car out around 9 p.m., drove to a diner on the edge of town, ordered coffee I didn't drink, and stared at the condensation on the window for an hour. The waitress didn't ask questions. She must have seen my kind before. When I got back, the house was dark. No lights on. No sound. I walked in quietly, trying not to wake her, then caught myself. What was I even tiptoeing around anymore? She didn't wake up for me. She didn't wait up for me. She didn't ask where I'd been. We were strangers now. Polite, quiet strangers who kept the fridge stocked and the trash taken out and nothing else. And the cruelest part? There was no closure. Because closure requires an ending. A door shut. A final word. But what we had was just a slow dissolve, like watching ink bleed off the edge of a page until the story disappears. She thought I was punishing her. She thought I was cold. But the truth is I just stopped hoping. Hoping for honesty. Hoping for effort. Hoping for her to look me in the eyes and say, I want to fix this. She never did. And I didn't need to hear her say it anymore. Because I already knew what she wouldn't admit. She'd made her choice. And so had I. At first, Kelsey thought I was sulking. That's what she told herself. I could see it in the way she moved around me cautiously like I was a storm cloud she just had to wait out. A silent protest. A mood. Something she assumed would pass once I got it out of my system. But it wasn't a mood. It was a retreat. And eventually, even she noticed the difference. Because the little things started to go missing. I stopped refilling the gas in her car. She always hated pumping it herself, called it her least favorite grown-up chore. For years, I'd take it in every Sunday morning, wash it, fill the tank, even leave her a coffee in the cup holder. She used to text me thank you emojis. That stopped months ago. So I stopped too. The tank hit empty and stayed that way for a week. I didn't say anything. She asked once flatly, can you take my car in? I looked up from my cereal and said, you've got a license. That was it. She never asked again. Then came the bills. I handled everything: rent, utilities, credit cards. Kelsey was good at big ideas, but the details overwhelmed her. Early on, she used to call me her life admin, a term I wore with quiet pride. I managed deadlines, balances, insurance, appointments. She'd text me from work, did you pay the water? What's our Wi-Fi password? Can you reschedule my dental cleaning? I always handled it. Every little thing. Until I didn't. One Tuesday, she came downstairs irritated. Why is my Spotify premium canceled? I shrugged. Probably a billing issue. You didn't update the card? I looked her in the eye. Not my account. She stared at me like I'd spoken a different language. Not angry, just disoriented. Because it was the first time I'd let her stumble. The next week, the internet went out for a day. She was late to a Zoom meeting, pacing the kitchen like it was on fire. I said nothing. Just kept typing on my laptop, tethered to my mobile hotspot, the one she didn't know the password to. By the third time something fell through the cracks, she started asking real questions. What's going on with you? I didn't respond. Seriously, Jason, she said one night. Are you mad at me or something? I'm tired, I said. That's all. Of what? I looked at her like I was looking through her. Of doing everything for someone who doesn't even notice. Her lips parted slightly like she wanted to argue, but then she didn't. She just turned back to the sink, rinsed her wine glass, and let the silence fall again. She thought that was the worst of it. But it wasn't. The worst came when I didn't come home. 11 years. That's how long we'd been together. And in those 11 years, I'd never once failed to come home at night. Not for work, not for travel, not for emergencies. I always came back. Until the night I didn't. It was a Friday. She had plans, I forget what. Probably team drinks or a networking thing. She left without saying goodbye, just a note on the fridge that said, out late, don't wait up. I didn't. At around 6 p.m. I packed a weekend bag and drove north. Found a cheap rental cabin 2 hours out, just me, a bottle of whiskey, and enough quiet to finally hear myself think. No texts. No calls. I left my phone in the glove compartment and let the night swallow me whole. I didn't miss her. I missed who she used to be. I missed who we used to be. But I didn't miss her. The next morning I checked my phone. 3 texts. Hey, where are you? Everything okay? I'm starting to get worried. Please call me. I didn't reply. By Sunday morning she'd sent 8 more. Each one a little more frantic than the last. But it was never I'm sorry. Never I messed up. Just variations of where are you? And why are you doing this? She still didn't understand that this wasn't an act of rebellion. It was a decision. I stayed gone through Sunday night, came home Monday morning around 7 a.m. She was sitting at the dining table in a hoodie, eyes red from crying or not sleeping, maybe both. When I walked in, she stood up fast. Where were you? Out. Out where? Her voice cracked. Jason, I thought something happened. I almost called the police. I raised an eyebrow. But you didn't. That shut her up. She stepped closer. What's going on? You're scaring me. You were fine being distant when it was your choice, I said. But now that I'm the one stepping back, it's a crisis? Her face twisted. That's not fair. I nodded slowly. Neither is sleeping with your trainer. And there it was. Her whole body froze. eyes wide, lips parted. She didn't even try to lie. She didn't deny it, didn't gasp or play dumb. She just stood there, cracked open by the weight of finally being seen. "Jason," she said, barely above a whisper. I didn't want to hear it. Not her excuses, not her regrets, not the weak apology she was about to try and manufacture. I walked past her, set my keys on the counter, and went straight to the shower. Hot water, closed door, silence. She didn't follow me. She knew. She knew it was over. Not because I left, but because I came back and I didn't care anymore. After that morning, she moved around me like I was glass. Careful, quiet, scared of shattering whatever little thread still connected us. But it was already broken. Had been for a while. She tried once, maybe twice, to fix it. "Can we talk?" I said. "You can talk. I'm done listening." She made dinner one night, lit candles, played our old playlist on her phone. I sat at the table, ate in silence, said thank you, then got up and did the dishes without looking at her. She stood behind me, unsure whether to say more. She didn't. Another night, she tried to sit next to me on the couch, her thigh pressing lightly against mine. I stood up, grabbed a blanket, and moved to the recliner. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. But I didn't flinch, because my absence wasn't about cruelty. It was about peace. For the first time in years, I had nothing to prove, nothing to defend, no illusions to maintain. She'd shown me the truth, and now I was just choosing to live in it. Eventually, she stopped trying. And that's when I knew the cost had finally reached her. It wasn't my anger. It was my indifference. She'd spent so long counting on the fact that I'd always come back, always pick up the slack, always love her more than she'd earned. But now she understood. I was gone. Long before I left the house. She tried. She started cooking again, asking about my day, booking a couple's retreat I never agreed to attend. One night, she cried while holding a photo of us on vacation, saying, "We can get back there." I looked at it, then at her and said nothing. My heart wasn't hardened, it was just empty. Her touch felt foreign. Her voice like someone I used to know. I wasn't angry anymore. I just couldn't feel anything for her. Love needs something to anchor to. She had cut every line. I wasn't punishing her. I'd simply moved on in silence, one breath at a time, until she no longer lived in my future.